Good morning, everyone. How are you? It's so good to be with you on this Wednesday morning. It's very cold here. We've got lots of snow. We've been in single digits here in Chicagoland, and welcome wherever you are. I am Cheryl Gould. I am the founder of Moms of Tweens and Teens. If you don't know me, I am also a parent educator and a relationship coach. And I love being here with all of you every Wednesday morning. I come on here around 9, a little late today, 9:15. I had some workers here, but so happy to have you. I want to talk today about 4 parenting styles. And most of us have heard about the 4 parenting styles, but there's many ways that we can all parent, tend to lean towards different styles. And it's really important to recognize where we land and where the parenting style that we tend to gravitate to and become more conscious of that so that we can actually change it and parent our tweens and teens in the way that they really need. And so I'm going to give us a little quiz this morning. You can see where you fit and say, oh, that's me. And then we're going to talk about some things that you can do to be parenting more from a place of authoritarian or authoritative rather, and actually be more effective with your kids. And I'm going to also explain why these approaches don't work and what does. And then we're going to talk about tangible things that you can do. Okay, so let's jump in. Okay, I'm going to go over here to some of my notes. I just briefly made some notes. The one that we most often have heard about is authoritarian. And this is, I think, very easy to do when you have a tween or teen, because so much starts to shift. And that's why I founded Moms of Tweens and Teens. There wasn't a lot of support out there. And I know for me, when my youngest hit the tween years, all of a sudden, so much seemed to change. They're starting to pull away. They're needing to become more independent. You can't control as much of what they do, who they hang out with, all those areas that when they were little, we felt like we had more of a say and more control. And all of a sudden their responsibilities are increasing, and they're pushing back, and they're not wanting to do their homework, and the stakes are higher, right? And the mistakes they can make can be more costly. So let me just ask these questions, okay? I want you to see where you fit. Do you believe that your kid should be more just be more going along with the program, not talking back, not arguing, that they should just get with the program? It's my way or the highway. It's high control. Do you tend to react out of fear and tend to want to control your kid more? Are you more demanding? Do you get really frustrated when they don't listen? Well, I think we could all raise our hands to that. Of course, we get frustrated with our kids when they don't listen. But how do you often react? Do you react out of anger and like, this kid should not argue? They should not disagree. They should just do what I tell them when they tell them. I shouldn't have to remind them. And that's very frustrating to you. And you tend to become more black or white, more rigid. So all of us, I think, can sometimes fall into this pattern. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and my experience. My oldest now is 31, but when she was a tween, I was very much raised with authoritarian parenting. Now, the difference is that for me, it seemed to work because I was a more compliant kid. Well, fast forward, and I have a strong-willed tween. So she was talking back, arguing, all those things that I didn't do as a kid, because if you did, you were in big trouble and it wasn't pretty. And I was scared to even disagree and argue. So then fast forward to when I get my first job. Now, of course, when I was in college, I I was more passive because I had not learned how to say, you know what, I don't want to do that. You know what? No. No, I disagree with that. I had not learned to develop my own voice. And so I often was afraid to speak up, and I fell more into that people pleasing role. And that has taken me a lot of work to learn how to have boundaries, to say no, to disagree, to argue. Lots of work to do that. On the other hand, of authoritarian, you can have a kid that is strong-willed like my daughter was, and she was rebelling. And the more that I tried to control her, the more that she rebelled. So you can have a kid that appears to be just go along and be easygoing and go along with this kind of parenting. And you can also, but they're not going to develop their voice, which they really need to be able to say no to what they need to say no to, that they can stand up to peer pressure. And then you also can end up having a kid that's going to rebel. And the more that you try to control, it's not going to work. So we're going to talk about what you can do instead. The problem also with authoritarian is your kid does not learn to develop those problem-solving skills. So they're not able to work through stuff and see, oh, okay, this is what I learned from my mistake, because the parent is so much in there trying to control things that they don't have the opportunity to problem solve and to work through things. So it's high rules and consequences that are very punitive, where you're just like, take things away and punish for a long period of time. And I remember that I would want to control so much. I would be like, you know what, you're grounded for a month, right? Out of desperation to get some sort of power and control back. And of course, that doesn't work very well. And it doesn't teach your kid what they need to learn from it. And it also damages the relationship because it's very low on relationship. And your kid does not have a say. So that is one of the biggies. Another one is permissive or passive parenting. Now, I swung between the two. So you've got the authoritarian is on this spectrum, and then the permissive is on this spectrum. And so this is, see if any of these questions resonate with you. You set rules, but you rarely enforce them. This can be where you maybe lay down a rule, but then your tween or teen ends up badgering you, and they end up saying, that's so unfair, and you're keeping me from my friends, and you end up giving in, which, if you've ever read my blog post I wrote on Confessions of a Boundaryless Mom, which was me back then, I ended up, what happened is I would try to lay down a rule, and then my daughter would argue and fight, and then I would become wishy-washy, and I was like, well, maybe that was unfair that I did, that I laid down that rule, and she wants to be with her friends, and okay, which only increased the arguing with me. So anytime I was like, no, not comfortable with that, you can't go, then she would work me because she was strong-willed, and then I would end up giving in. So that does not work so well. And permissive parents are often very unclear. And this was me. I was very unclear about boundaries. I grew up in a family where it was the authoritarian and it was my way or the highway. And so I didn't really learn how to develop the healthy boundaries. I didn't know what that looked like. And many of us did not have that modeled well. Many of us grew up in that authoritarian home and with that method of discipline. So I was very unclear and I had to do the hard work of kind of figuring out, okay, we have to figure out ahead of time what our rules are going to be, what we're going to say yes to and no to. And what I now looking back, reflecting on that time, was very quick to say no, because my oldest was one that really pushed the boundary line. So I was always saying no, and maybe you relate to this, right out of the box, where it's like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And I was reacting versus, okay, you want to go downtown Chicago with your friends on the train and you're 13 years old or, 14, no, right? Versus, and now there, I would not have done that. That's kind of an extreme example because she wasn't old enough, and it is Chicago, and anyway, but I didn't even ask any questions to get her to think, okay, well, let me know. Okay, what would that look like? What train would you take? Play that out for me, how that's going to go. And allowed her to talk about it. Now, maybe a better example is a mall, because I come across this a lot where parents, their kids are 13 and they want to go to the mall. And you can have so much fear hearing all the bad stories of what happens at a mall that we immediately want to say no and not let our kids go. Versus talking about, okay, you're going, and tell me, how are you gonna navigate that, and problem solving and figuring out ways that they can be safe. And one of those ways that I did with my youngest was when she wanted to go to the mall, I would go with in the beginning, and I would sit at the coffee shop, at the Starbucks in the mall, and I would say, check in with me physically. And then it began, she would text, and then she got old enough. So it was this progression of, allowing her to be more independent rather than just saying, no, you can't go. So permissive parents are very unclear. And so what I would end up doing also, where I said I gravitated, like I swung, is she would argue, and then I would go to authoritarian. I would try to control things, and then I would doubt myself, and then I would become passive. So we can swing both ways. And sometimes what happens, this is so common, is one parent is permissive and the other one is authoritarian. And what ends up happening is you're trying to balance each other out. So the authoritarian parent comes in there and they're like, no, you can't do this. And they're high control. And then the other parent starts feeling like, oh, they're so strict and I don't like that. And I feel like we're not listening. And so they become passive. And the work is there to come together and talk about it and say, hey, I'm noticing that we're out of whack here, and that I get passive and then you get authoritarian. And how can we partner more? And how can we have some sort of a plan? And so you can make some agreements and negotiate and kind of wrestle with that. Sometimes we don't even, especially if we're passive. No, I guess it goes both ways, because my husband was more authoritarian and I was more passive, and ended up, we were both parenting more out of fear and control, but it just looked different. And we both tended to avoid talking about it because we were both feeling scared, and we both then felt criticized by the other one. And what we learned is to come together and go, okay, I know I undermined you sometimes, but I get scared, and I'm sure, with what's going on, and like, can we come up with something where I'm not undermining you and we can have a little bit more balance, because I think that we're trying to balance each other out, and like, let's talk about this. And yeah, we might have, we argued a little bit back and forth, but we have to wrestle together with these kind of things and understand that just avoiding talking about it is not going to make a difference. So I'm going to get back. I'm going to go through, but I just want to say hi. Good morning, Michelle. I've done both, stuck to some and given in on others. Teenagers are so hard. My biggest heart, but feel like I'm failing all the time. Good morning, Laura. So hi, whoever's on here, you can say hi. Good morning from Florida. Oh, I'm so jealous. Last year, we spent February and March in Florida, and it was so nice. We were in Sarasota and, just got outside every day with the dog. And I just love it. I'll just tell you, we just sold our house. Well, it's under contract, and we're trying to decide what to do next and where to go. And we've got a lot of big decisions, and we've lived here all our lives, but we're thinking we are going to really downsize, and we have kids that are all over the place. So we're kind of trying to wrestle with all that. Oh, hi, Karina. Hi in South Africa. Wow. My husband and I just watched the movie, My Octopus Teacher, and it was fabulous. And he lives in South Africa, I believe, correct? And if you have not watched that, it's a wonderful, wonderful movie to watch with your kids. Just so inspiring, so beautiful, so heartfelt. It's just really, really good. So I highly recommend that. And Karina, I just think that I've never been to South Africa, but it just seems like it's so beautiful there. Michelle, I'm in North Florida. It's chilly. Yeah, makes a big difference, right? Where you are in Florida. So I'm going to go back over to my notes. So authoritarian and permissive, and we can swing towards both. And I just want to say, I forget which one of you. Oh yeah, Karina, amazing movie. Yes, it is. I loved it. We just watched it over the weekend. You're not failing. We put so much pressure on ourselves that we're failing. And what I want to say to you is I want you to give yourself permission we have to kind of change those voices and say, I am learning and I'm growing. And to embrace that mindset. Authoritarian says, I'm up here to your kid and you're down here. And that really, now I believe we're the parents, right? Passive parenting, our permissive parenting is more wanting to be their friend, not wanting to upset them. That's another part of when we're permissive or passive. What I want to encourage you to think about is that your kid is in a developmental process and they're learning and growing, and they need to learn from their mistakes. They need to, they're going to make mistakes. They don't know how to handle their emotions responsibly. They don't know how to work through conflict. Their adolescent brain is developing, and they're going to react out of their amygdala because that's what's fully developed right now. So they're going to lose their patience. And we are too. And so if we can say to our kid, you know what, I'm learning right alongside of you in this. I've never parented, or maybe I have parented a teenager, but everything is always changing, right? With our circumstances and our situations, and technology is always changing. I mean, between my youngest and my oldest, just with technology, gaming, all of that alone, it made just a huge difference with even the gaps I had with my kids, and what issues were, hot at the time. And anyway, so I just want you to come from that perspective, that you are learning and you are growing. And that's the difference too, between authoritarian and authoritative, which we're going to talk about, because authoritative says, I'm on this journey alongside of you. I'm learning. I'm going to make mistakes as a parent, and allows for that and has conversations around it and listens. So same, hi, Christy. He's an only child, so he gets all the attention. Yes. Hi, Christy. So good to see you back here again. Oh yeah, only children. I mean, that like you don't have another kid to distract you from that only child. So much focus is on that kid. And I was the oldest, and there was a 5-year gap. So between my brother and I, and the oldest anyway tends to, be one that we tend to really focus on because we're going through it for the first time. So anyway, I'll go back over to my notes. So we talked about authoritarian, we talked about passive or permissive. Another kind of parenting that maybe you are not as familiar with this term is passive aggressive. This is where you may give in and be more permissive passive, but you are really ticked off underneath the surface. So this is the parent that, and I can raise my hand to this one too, where my permissiveness and my lack of boundaries actually made me very resentful, and it leaked out on my kid. So they were constantly late to school because I wasn't holding a boundary. I was very unclear around that. So I would drive them. I'd miss my exercise class, and then I was mad at them. And so I was criticizing them the whole way to school. And I was like, you're always late, and why can't you get up? And I'm so mad I missed my exercise class, and I'm blaming them. And that is passive aggressive. Passive aggressive is where we're not taking good care of ourselves. And that's all of them are not taking good care of ourselves, but it's where passive is when you feel like you're being walked all over, but you're not figuring out what your boundaries are. You feel taken advantage of, you're wishy-washy. And so you walk around a lot feeling like a victim. And your energy is that you're complaining a lot and you're really resentful. And we often say things when we're passive aggressive. We kind of walk around the house low grade anger. I am always, doing all these things for my kid. And after all I've done for them, they don't help out with chores. I just recently was talking to a mom they were paying for college. Their kid was skipping class. They were paying all this money. The kid was 23 and had been in college for like 5 years. And they were like, he just won't go to class, won't study, flunking all his classes. What should we do? And I'm like, you need to stop paying for college. But we're scared to do that, right? So then you're going to be passive aggressive. Do you think that kid comes home Christmas and the parents are happy with that kid? No, they're not. And it's leaking out all over. And the kid gets the message that, you're the bad guy. But we have to always be looking at how am I co-creating this situation with my kid? I don't have good boundaries. It's not their fault. They don't even want to be in college. This is more about me wanting them to be in college. And you gotta cut it, cut the umbilical cord. And that is very hard, but we are not. I will tell you from doing it myself, we're doing them such a disservice. The earlier that we can let them make mistakes, feel the consequences of their choices, get clear on what our boundaries are going to be, and include them in that process, the better off our kids are going to be. And they're going to develop that resiliency and learn from their mistakes. So passive aggressive, I will tell you historically, even I can see now my passive aggressiveness growing up in my family, because if you were on here early, I was talking about how I was a compliant kid and I had an authoritarian parent. And that's how she was parented, right? My mom, and she was a single mom. So she was more authoritarian, authoritarian. Sometimes I say authoritative, and I mean authoritarian. So I did not, I forgot what I was going to say now. But anyway, growing up with in that kind of parenting. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was very passive aggressive. And that's another part of if you have a compliant kid and you tend to be more authoritarian, your kid is going to leak out their hostility because they're not learning to share how they're feeling. And so I was late all the time. Like I even think back, I would show up at family events really late. And like that would make my mom mad. And I wasn't consciously aware of all the ways I was passive aggressive. But now I look at it, it was just a way it leaked out. And my mom would get mad. So I was very slippery, you know, when you're passive aggressive and it's like you're talking to your kid calm and nice, but you're gritting your teeth and it's leaking out. And it's very confusing for a kid because they feel that energy underneath. And they're going to feel that hostility underneath when you're being passive aggressive and you seem so nice. And I know my daughter would call me out on it. She's like, why are you talking to me with that tone? And the tone was so nice, but it was like patronizing. And she smelled it and she's like, why are you using that tone? But underneath, if I was honest at that time, and this was before I really started working on myself and doing all my training, it would have been so much more honest if I would have just said, you know what, I'm feeling angry right now and frustrated, rather than trying to just grit my teeth and smile. And she could feel that. So different ways that we show up. Okay. So authoritative. Does this describe you? You put a lot of effort in creating and maintaining a positive relationship with your kid. This is what we talk about a lot. So number one, no matter where your kid's at, they're acting out. I see this all the time. And especially when you have a kid that's acting out, your temptation is going to be to control. There's two main emotions, fear and love. I want you to think about this and the kind of the understanding, if we think of it this way, and it makes a lot of sense, is that all of the emotions stem from either fear, or love. And so when we're afraid, we're going to get angry. We're going to try to control things. We're going to feel frustrated. But I want you to think about, how often do I parent my kid or react out of fear? Because I'm already in the future thinking, oh, they're not going to get into that college, or they're going to flunk math. And so I can't allow that to happen. Versus, okay, they're going to have to take summer school, right? They're going to have to take, if they flunk, they'll have to take summer school. So I want you to just think about, what are you afraid of? That's the starting point. And when we're afraid, we're parenting out of that place, the temptation is to control rather than thinking about, how can I put the relationship first? What might that look like? You authoritative, you explain the reasons behind your rules. Now, we have to be a little careful of this with our tweens and teens. Because what I notice working with moms is we often try to over-explain our reasoning, and in an attempt to make our kid get it and to understand maybe why we have that rule, and they don't get it and they're upset about it. And it's okay that they're upset about it. It's okay if they don't like a rule or a boundary. And we don't have to over-explain. So we have to be careful. There's this tension there, but we do want them to understand we are for them, and there's a reason. And I get it that you don't like it. I get that you don't like that you have to come home at midnight, and a lot of your friends don't have a curfew. Totally makes sense to me. We can talk about it when you're a little bit older, extending that. But for right now, our rule is midnight. And that's got to be hard for you that you've got friends that can stay out and you have to come home. I get that. But right now, that's what we've decided. And we will reevaluate. But that's right now, that's what we're comfortable with. So, and you don't have to go into a ton of explanation around why that is. And you also, authoritative, tend to enforce rules and give consequences. But like I just modeled for you, you take your kids' feelings into consideration and you validate. So here is some of the things that you want to do if you want to become a more balanced, relational, and authoritative. I always get the two, parent. Okay. So number one, you guys know that join me every week. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? Number one, and this is everything I do is based in research. Number one is you got to listen more than you do anything else. So I know that so many of you, like Christy, she can answer that, right? Michelle, fear and love, goodness. Yeah, mine probably won't go to college unless he goes in with football. He's not a fan of school. Yeah. Michelle, I feel authoritarian and I have permissive. I'm breaking the cycle of the blame stuff because I grew up the oldest and was guilted. Yeah, see, good job, Michelle, because you're looking back, we have to do this. And if you were to work with me one-on-one, anybody that's here, that's one of the things that we go back to kind of pinpoint how we were parented and some of our rules in our brains that we got from that. And a lot of times, maybe if you were parented a certain way, you also might swing to the other extreme. And so we look at that because it helps us to understand ourselves better and why we tend to parent the way we do. And a lot of times it's because we don't want our kids to experience the same pain or upset that we experienced. Because why? Because we're fearful. We don't want them to go through that. So if you grew up where you felt maybe like your parents didn't care, or you felt neglected, or there was a lot of anger in your family, you might try to compensate for those wounds by maybe getting overly involved in your kids' stuff because you don't want them to feel like they don't matter like you felt growing up. You see? So it's really important to go back. And we're going to open up the Inner Circle membership. Get on the newsletter because I'm going to be doing a 3-day free masterclass. And I have a workbook and it's such a great time and we connect and really good. It's my favorite thing to do. And then we open up the Inner Circle, which is this amazing group of moms that all support each other. And there's all kinds of resources. And we go through this weekly. I do a teaching and and I do a weekly coaching call in there. So there's just so much. But anyway, so much more support than you get here. And it's very personal. But it's really good, to see, okay, these are some of my wounds and I really want to heal in these areas. And that's what we do in the 8-week parenting program, what we talk a lot about. When my oldest was younger, she is 19. She had said once, why did you have more kids? It couldn't be just me. That's so cute. Yeah, she didn't want to share. She didn't want to share the love. I always said there's enough love to go around, right? Anyway, yeah, she wanted all that attention to herself, which is very typical of an oldest child. So listen, 80%, 80-20, Christy has heard this over and over. So you want to listen first. Number 2, again, validate their emotions. That's what authoritative parents do. And they acknowledge feelings. That doesn't mean that we have to give in to our rules, but that is a huge part. Your kids' feelings matter. How they feel about something matters. Remember when I talked about how I was parented with more of the authoritative? I didn't, what I had to learn is to be able to out loud, even say to my mom now as an adult, Mom, I don't agree with you. With my husband, I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't like that. I do like that. So your kids are going through a developmental process where they need to develop their voice. And it's going to be messy and it might come out sideways and they might not always be respectful, but they need to practice. If they're going to become, we're doing wholehearted parenting based on Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, in the Inner Circle membership group right now. And so what Brene would call wholehearted, we want our kids to become whole and healthy. And that's part of it, is allowing them to wrestle and develop their voice and learn how to handle conflict. But if we haven't, it's hard to give your kid what you didn't get. If we haven't done that work on ourselves, it's going to be very hard to give that to them. So that's why you need to join the Inner Circle when it opens up the end of February. And get on our newsletter list on momsofteensandteens.com so you can know when we're doing that. Because this is important work, and the most important work that we will ever do is our kids, is on ourselves. And our kids are an amazing gift because they bring out all of our unfinished business, all those things that are, not really, not healed, that we have healing to do. And so they're a gift. They can become our greatest teachers if we allow them to become our greatest teachers. So, not to just, want to slap down, like, don't talk to me like that. It can become something like, what, I want to hear how you're feeling, but when we're in this, this arguing, we're not going to get anywhere. And so I want to talk to you about it, but we need to calm down first. Now, I know this takes a lot of, it takes work to learn how to do this, but the more that you practice, the better that you'll get at it, the more you can change your lens and see that your kid is in this developmental process. Mindfulness meditation is so helpful. I use Calm app. I've been doing it for years now. I used to think it sounded woo-woo, like, oh, mindfulness meditation. But now I know what it really is to ground you with yourself. So often as parents, we're not grounded and we're just reacting out of this heightened amygdala place, out of this fear, trying to control things. Versus mindfulness is like you're with yourself and you notice your feelings, like going along, and you're not judging them so harshly. Oh, I'm feeling anxious today. Okay. I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling angry, because we tend to categorize our emotions as good or bad. And especially like anxiety. If you have struggled with anxiety, you know that the more that you try to stop your anxiety, the more you get anxious. And that's the same thing with our kids. If you haven't listened to the podcast episode this past week about 7 things you can do to help your kids with their mental and emotional health right now, that is expression is so important, because when we're alone in our feelings, they become bigger. And they can become more distorted. And that's the same for our kids. But if they can express, if they can learn that you're a safe place and a safe container for their feelings, and they can express, they're going to have less anxiety. Now, of course, we know that there's anxiety disorders, but just expression helps so much. And then you're not alone. When you're alone in your pain or whatever it is, that is when it's really painful. And I'm sure we've all experienced where we have had one person in our life at some point where we've just really let down and we've cried or we've expressed our fear or upset, and you walk away from that, you feel so much better. And they didn't offer advice or say anything that was profound, that like you were like, wow. It was more like, okay, I feel so much better because I was allowed to express. Oftentimes when we get that, if somebody gives us that advice, it feels really bad. Like you're like, gosh, they're just giving me advice here. They're not hearing me. That's how our kids feel. And then you feel worse versus trying to validate our kids' feelings. And this is, of course, a skill. I just want you to practice it. Consider your child's feelings. That's another thing I've just said. It doesn't mean that you have to give in again or that you become that permissive parent, but just hearing them out. And a lot of you right now, your kids are going through bullying situations, friendships issues, boyfriend or girlfriend breaking up with them. That my inbox is flooded. And it's painful. It's just so painful to have a kid that is hurting in some way. It's just so painful, and we want to fix it so badly. And what we need to do, and it just seems so, I feel like, a mom in so much pain reaches out to me, and to just say back, just be with them in it. It just doesn't seem like enough, right? We just, because why? Because sitting with somebody in pain is really uncomfortable, and especially when it's your kid. And we have to be willing to sit in that discomfort ourselves. And we need a place that we can go. I've done that. My kids have gone through different things that have been super painful. I have to go to my supportive network and let myself just cry about it and get kind of cleansed of all those feelings, so that I can go back and I can be with my kid and their feelings. Just so I can dump mine out, so I can be more present. Mindfulness, going back to mindfulness, it really helps to be able to sit with your own feelings and sit in that. And it's been proven that it rewires our brain, and it helps us to be more present and to be more grounded and to be more accepting, and less reactive. So 2 more, okay? Authoritative parents have clear rules and expectations. So you need to get clear about, what are mine going to be? Because you don't want to be reacting all the time. And remember when I talked about how I was permissive, passive, it's because I wasn't clear. So if you've gone through the Boundaries Masterclass, it's on our site, you can purchase it. It's wonderful. I go through that, all those exercises, what you can control, what you can't. And I go through how to set those boundaries and in a healthy way, and how to, lastly, we need to include our kids in the process in order to teach life lessons. And I teach that also in the Boundaries Masterclass. I've been thinking about how to support all of you as you're going through really tough stuff right now. And I just want to tell you, you're not alone. If you've emailed me and I haven't gotten back to you this week yet, I'm really going to try and catch up. I have hundreds of emails that I'm getting daily with parents that are struggling. And I think it's important. I had a mom reach out to me and say, thank you for your last podcast. It made me feel so much more comfort to understand that I'm not alone, that my kid's not the only one that's going through this. So I was thinking the other day, our newsletter goes out today. So if you're not on the newsletter list, get on it. It's at the top of our website. And we're going to release at a very discounted price for 2 days. We're going to have developing healthy relationship with your tween or teen. And it's wonderful. There's a workbook, and it's just, parents have found it super helpful. And so we're really, really discounting it. And I talk so much about this. And the 3rd day also is around, how do you set boundaries with your kids in a healthy way, not an authoritarian way? and come alongside your kid in a way that says, I love you, I care about you, I'm for you. Because when you can come from that place, not permissive, not passive aggressive, not authoritarian, you're going to notice your relationship changes so much. Christy, who is on here, has just said even the 80-20 rule, listening 80% of the time, that she's been practicing has made a huge difference in her relationship with her kid. And you might say, well, my kid's not talking to me. They don't tell me how they feel. You can, by practicing little, there are always opportunities. And once you start doing it, even in those little windows of opportunities, you are going to notice that even their body language changes with you. That they often get in the car like this when you maybe pick them up from school. I mean, the body language is like this. And when you just start listening and validating their feelings, all of a sudden you're going to notice that they're sitting in the car like this. And I want you to try it and you will see. And so get on the newsletter list. I'm going to go back over here and get on the newsletter list, and you'll find out when that course is significantly reduced. You'll also get the newsletter where we share the Valentine challenge. We're going to start February 1st. We have some Valentine gift guides in there, and also the emotional and mental health download that I did. I had promised all of you I was going to do a download on how to help your kid, what to say to them, to just check in with them around their emotional and mental health right now. So when you sign up for the newsletter, you will get that download. So I highly recommend that you do that, because it's like we kind of know what not to do, but we need to know what can we say and what can we do instead. And it can be very helpful. So every argument with my 11-year-old stresses me out, makes me feel like I'm getting stuff wrong. I'm also finding it hard to differentiate between being a parent with healthy limits and being overly critical. I keep worrying that our arguments are changing his future inner voice to be very critical. Stacy, hi there. Stacy, if you, at the top where it says newsletter, you'll see at the very top of the website, put your name in there and your email, and you will get the newsletter today, okay? And where's the newsletter list? Joel, it's at the very top. So hopefully you see that. Yeah, Christy, you are not alone. And thank you for saying that to Sonia. I wanted to say, Sonia, in closing, that kudos to you for recognizing it. That's where it starts. And so once you're recognizing some of these patterns, I'm imagining, I don't know Sonia, but I'm imagining that you grew up where you were criticized and you're probably very hard on yourself. Having worked with hundreds of moms, I kind of, in my own parenting, I kind of recognize the patterns that we can get into. And when we tend to be more critical, we're really hard on ourselves too. And we have a lot of critical voices and a lot of fear. And so that's where I would say three things. Be compassionate towards yourself. Be really compassionate and kind towards yourself in this process, because it is not easy. And our kids have things that trigger us that they say the darndest things. And number two, don't take the bait. They say things, I call it throwing out bait. And sometimes they do it because they're frustrated and they want to get a reaction. Other times they're not even consciously aware that they're doing it. But what we do is we take the bait and then we get in that you're not right, or you're wrong the way you're thinking of this, or you're not doing, or, it takes on many different faces. But we get into the power struggle with them. So I want to say, think about how you might be taking the bait. It's like they hook us and we're off to the races. So don't get into that. You're wrong. You're right. I'm right. Any of those things. Don't take the bait. And think it, just notice instead what you're feeling. Practice. You're still going to have reactions. You're not going to do this perfectly. This is a process. If you've listened to like any other of my Facebook lives, I've talked about, I still do it sometimes. I still get reactive. I still mess up because we're human. So we have to just practice noticing. And now I've gotten very skilled at noticing even in the moment what's going on. Or afterwards, I reflect back on, okay, what just happened here? And I just did this last week with one of my kids where they threw something out. And I bit it, I went, and then they got mad at me. So I'm thinking back, the next time it happens, I'm going to say, why are you telling me this? Like, like, why are you? And because what ends up happening is they end up throwing the bait out to me. I react and I become the bad guy. Maybe you're relating. And I'm going to say, now you know how I feel about this. Why are you telling me this? Now, my judgment about my kid is that they feel the same way I feel. And, but they're just not, they're letting me have the reaction for them almost. And I'm doing it. That's my role in the dance. We all have different dances we do. Change the dance steps. We have to be willing to change the dance steps. So if something's not working, try something different. Break into song. Like, whoa, when something's happening, do something goofy, like, oh, I'm going crazy right now, and I mean, it sounds nutty, but bring some humor into it, do something different, try something different. So don't take the bait, and just notice that your dance is when you take the bait, you get into the right or wrong, you're trying, then you feel like you end up making your kid bad and putting them down for whatever it is. So good to see the dance. So just changing the dance steps. Not gonna notice when I'm getting triggered, and what am I gonna do when that happens? And sometimes just validating, like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You can say, rather than getting into it, and then you can like run into the other room and go, and then, walk back out. Sometimes we just need to do that. I work with clients, they're out in the car talking to me. We use Zoom a lot, and they just have to scream when they're in their car. I just say, let it all out. They just got to scream where nobody can hear them. So anyway, so I hope that is helpful to all of you. And I do, Michelle, have a book for Parenting Tweens and Teens workbook. And you can get that when you sign up for the Healthy Relationship course. There's a Boundaries Masterclass course. That's right now, it's full price, but it's so awesome. Highly recommend that. But more than anything, you have to pick your battles, or our song. Exactly. Right there with you, Christy. And I would love for you all to think about very seriously joining the inner circle, because we do exercises weekly. I have reflective questions, and we talk about it, we go through it, and we have a book club in there, and we do a book, and we meet face to face. I have so much different ways you can connect. And so really seriously think about that. It is the best, cheapest, best therapy you will ever get. I really believe it. There's nothing like it. So anyway, get on the newsletter list. You'll know, when the Healthy Relationships goes on sale. I think it's in a week or so. And it's actually discounted to $37 for the first 24 hours. And it's normally $197, I think. So huge discount that you get. And there's a workbook and everything you can work through. Could even share it with a friend, do it with a friend. The two of you could go through it. That's another way. that you could do it. So Michelle, wonderful. Message me, okay? So I will put your name down when it opens, and I will make sure that you are the first one. And the first 10 people that join get a one-on-one session with me, complimentary, as part of that. So yeah, you're so welcome. I love you gals. I love that, Michelle. Seriously, message me or email me at Cheryl@momsofTweensandTeens.com, and I will put you on the list, and I will star your name 3 times to talk to you. Okay. All right. Bye, gals. So great to get, and dads join us too. So have a great day. Make it the best day that you can. Control what you can. Take a walk. Do what you need to do for your own mental and emotional health. Okay. Love you, gals. All right. Yay, Christy. All right. How do you get on your list? Ruth, message me, email me. There is somewhere there's a drop down to get on the wait list, but I don't know. My team put it somewhere and I don't pay attention. So the best way to do that is to message me with your email, get on the newsletter list, but also message me because I'll write your name down. I'll put it in my doc with your email and I will notify you. Okay. I'll reach out personally. All right. Have a blessed day too. All right. Thank you. I just love connecting with all you gals. All right. See you later. Okay.